Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
2 years had passed since I came to Dr. Flint's house. In that time, I learned many things from experience, but I did not have a chance to learn much else. My grandmother tried to be a mother to us, her orphan grandchildren. She worked very hard and now had a small, comfortable home with everything she needed. But she was not truly happy because her children could not live freely with her. There were 3 children and 2 grandchildren left, all still slaves. She told us it was God's will that we were in this situation. Even though it was hard, she said we should pray to feel content. Her faith was strong. But my brother Benjamin and I did not agree. We thought it was not God's will for us to be slaves. We wished for a home like our grandmother's. She was always kind and listened to our troubles. She gave us hope when we were sad. There was also a big oven in her home where she baked bread and sold food. She always saved something special for us. But no gift could make us forget our pain. Benjamin was now a strong and handsome boy. He was too brave to be a slave. My other brother, William, was 12. He hated the word master just like he did when he was 7. He told me all his troubles. One spring morning, I was very sad. My master had just spoken cruel words to me. His words burned in my mind like fire. I hated him. I wished the earth would open and swallow him so that the world would be free of him. He told me I was made for him, that I had to obey him always. But his words only made me feel stronger. I was so deep in thought that I did not hear William come in. He said, "Linda, why are you so sad? I love you. Isn't this a bad world? Everyone is so angry and unhappy. I wish I had died with our father." I told him not everyone was unhappy. People with kind friends and safe homes were happy. But we were slave children. We had no parents, so we could not expect happiness. We had to be good. Maybe that would help. William sighed. I try to be good, but what's the use? They always trouble me. Then he told me about his fight with young Master Nicholas. The master's brother lied about William. Nicholas said he would punish him. He tried, but William fought back. When Nicholas tried to tie his hands, William kicked and punched him. In the end, William only had a few scratches. William kept talking about his young master's meanness. He said the boy whipped little children, but was a coward when fighting boys his own size. If a fight started, he always ran away. William also told me another secret. His master rubbed pennies with quicksilver to make them look like silver coins. Then, he gave them to an old man who sold fruit, pretending they were quarters. William often went to buy fruit and asked me what he should do. I told him it was wrong to trick the old man. He should tell him the truth. I said the old man would understand, and that would be the end of it. But William was not sure. He said the old man might forget, but his master would not. William did not care about the pain of the whip, but he hated being whipped. I told him to be good and forgive. But deep inside, I knew I was not perfect either. I had lived 14 years as a slave. I had seen and felt too much pain. My life was a battle, and I promised myself I would never give up. There were only two people who gave me happiness, Benjamin and someone else I loved. But my master knew about my love and tried to make me miserable. He did not beat me, but he found many ways to hurt me. I remember the first time I was punished. It was winter. My grandmother gave me new shoes because the snow was deep. But when I walked through Mrs. Flint's room, my shoes made a noise. She called me and asked what was making that horrible sound. "My new shoes," I said. "Take them off," she ordered. "If you wear them again, I will burn them." I took off my shoes and my socks. Then she sent me far away on an errand. My bare feet burned in the snow. That night, I was sure I would get sick. Maybe I would die. But in the morning, I was fine. I had hoped my mistress would feel sorry if I died. But now I knew she would not care at all. Dr. Flint had chances to sell me for high prices, but he said, "She is not mine. She belongs to my daughter. She was a child, so she could not help me. I loved her, and she loved me too." But was it real love? Or was she just afraid of her mother? I wanted to believe that little children were always honest. One afternoon, I sat sewing, feeling very sad. My mistress had accused me of doing something wrong. I told her I was innocent, but I could see from her face that she did not believe me. I wondered why God let me suffer so much. Would things get even worse? As I sat thinking, the door opened quietly and William came in. "What's wrong now, William?" I asked. "Oh, Linda, Ben and his master had a terrible fight," he said. My heart stopped. "Is Benjamin dead?" I asked. "Don't be scared, Linda," William said. "I'll tell you everything." Benjamin's master had called him, but Ben did not come right away. When he did, his master was angry and started to whip him. Ben fought back. They struggled, and Ben threw his master to the ground. This was very dangerous because his master was one of the richest men in town. I was afraid of what would happen next. That night, I sneaked to my grandmother's house. Ben also ran away from his master's house. Our grandmother was away, visiting a friend. "I came to say goodbye," Ben said. "I am leaving." "Where will you go?" I asked. "To the north," he said. I could see from his face that he was serious. I begged him not to go, but he didn't listen. He said he was not a child anymore, and life as a slave was getting worse every day. He had hit his master, so now he would be whipped in public. I reminded him that he would face hunger and danger in the north. If he got caught, he would be brought back, and that would be terrible. Ben got angry. "Linda, isn't it better to be poor and free than to live like this? Here, we are treated like animals. I will not stay. Let them bring me back if they can. We only die once." He was right, but it was hard to let him go. "Go then," I said. "Break your mother's heart." I regretted my words as soon as I said them. "Linda," he said softly, "how could you say that? Take care of mother. And take care of Cousin Fanny too." We said goodbye. Ben, our dear brother, was gone. Ben got on a ship to New York, but a storm came. The ship had to stop at a nearby port. The captain saw a notice about a runaway slave and realized it was Ben. He chained him up. Later, the storm passed and they sailed to New York. But before they arrived, Ben broke his chains and threw them into the sea. He escaped but was caught again. They sent him back to his master. When our grandmother came home and found out, she was heartbroken. But, as always, she said, God's will be done. The next day we heard the worst news. Ben's master had received a letter. It said Ben had been caught. The master was happy. I saw Benjamin walking through the streets in chains. His face was very pale, but he looked strong. He had asked a sailor to tell our mother not to come. He said seeing her sadness would make him lose control. But she could not stay away. She went to see him but hid in the crowd. We were not allowed to visit him in jail. But the jailer was kind and had known our family for many years. At midnight, he secretly let my grandmother and me inside. We wore disguises. Inside the cell, it was very quiet. Benjamin, Benjamin, my grandmother whispered. No answer. Benjamin, she said again, her voice shaking. His chains made a small sound. The moon shone a little light through the bars of the window. We knelt beside him and held his cold hands. No one spoke. Then we heard sobbing. Our mother was crying on Benjamin's shoulder. Mother and son talked for a long time. He asked her to forgive him for making her suffer. She said she could not blame him for wanting freedom. He told her that when he was caught, he almost jumped into the river. But then he thought of her and stopped. Did you think of God? She asked. His face became hard. No, he said. When a man is hunted like an animal, he forgets everything, even God. Don't talk like that, she said. Trust God. Be humble, and your master will forgive you. Forgive me for what? Ben asked. For refusing to be treated like a dog? No, I will never beg him. I have worked for him all my life, and he gives me prison and pain. I will stay here until I die or until he sells me. Mother shivered at his words. Ben saw it, and his voice softened. Don't worry about me, Mother. I'm not worth it, he said. I wish I was like you. You stay strong. You accept everything. She told him she was not always like that. When she had no one to help her, she learned to call on God, and he gave her strength. She begged Ben to do the same. We stayed too long and had to leave quickly. Ben stayed in jail for 3 weeks. Our grandmother begged his master to let him go. The master refused. He wanted Ben to be an example to other slaves. He said Ben would stay in jail or be sold, even for $1. Later, he changed his mind a little. The chains were taken off, and we were allowed to visit. Ben's food was bad, so we often brought him warm meals and a small gift for the jailer. 3 months passed, but no one came to buy Ben, and his master did not free him. One day, someone heard Ben laughing and singing. His master was angry. He told the overseer to chain him again. This time, Ben was put with other prisoners who were dirty and covered in bugs. Soon, Ben was also covered in them. He worked on his chains until he broke free. He threw them out of the window and sent a message to his master. I am covered in bugs. Benjamin was punished for breaking his chains. He was given heavier chains, and we were not allowed to visit him. But my grandmother still sent him fresh clothes. The old ones were burned. On our last visit to the jail, his mother begged him to ask his master for forgiveness. But Benjamin refused. I am waiting for his time, he said calmly. His chains made a sad sound. 3 more months passed. Then Benjamin was taken out of jail. We waited to say goodbye. A slave trader had bought him. When Benjamin was 10 years old, he was sold for a high price. Now he was over 20 and sold for only $300. The trader thought he was too thin and pale to be a good slave. He also heard that Benjamin was strong-willed. He said he would pay a high price if Benjamin was a girl. We thanked God he was not. His mother cried and held on to him as they put irons on his wrists. Her eyes were red, and she looked around, begging for help. But no one helped. If you had seen her pain, you would say, slavery is evil. Benjamin was her youngest son, her favorite. And now he was gone forever. She asked the trader if she could buy him, but he refused. He promised not to sell Benjamin until they reached New Orleans. My grandmother never gave up. She was ready to do anything to set him free. She worked day and night to raise the money. The trader wanted 3 times what he paid for Benjamin, but she did not lose hope. She hired a lawyer to contact someone in New Orleans. This man agreed to help. He met Benjamin and told him about the plan. Benjamin thanked him but asked to wait. He knew the trader was asking for a high price but was not finding a buyer. So one morning, before sunrise, Benjamin escaped. He was on a ship to Baltimore. His pale face helped him. No one thought he was a slave. If they knew, they would have taken him back. But then, he became very sick and had to stay in Baltimore for 3 weeks. He wanted to keep traveling but was too weak. One day, he decided to take a short walk in a quiet street. Suddenly, he heard a voice. Ben, my boy, what are you doing here? His heart pounded. He wanted to run, but his legs felt weak. He turned around and saw his old master's neighbor. He thought he was caught, but the man surprised him. Ben, you look sick, he said. I scared you, didn't I? Don't worry, I won't touch you. But leave this city fast. Some men from our town are here. He showed Benjamin the safest way to New York. I will tell your mother I saw you. Goodbye, Ben. Benjamin was filled with gratitude. He never thought there could be a kind man in that town. This man later found my grandmother and told her Benjamin was safe. In New York, Benjamin decided to stay until he was strong again. By God's blessing, his brother Philip also arrived in New York on business. When they met, Benjamin said, Phil, I am here at last." He told his brother how he almost died before reaching free land. In jail, he had wanted to die. But now, life felt precious. "If I die now," he said, "thank God, I will die a free man." He begged Philip to stay in the north and work with him. Philip shook his head. "Mother needs me. She sold her house to buy your freedom. Will you let her do that?" "No, never," Benjamin said. "I will not give them 1 cent. And I will not let Mother lose her home. Tell her to buy you instead." He also worried about Linda, their sister. "She suffers so much. I wish that old man was dead or better." While sick, Benjamin had sold most of his clothes to pay for food. But he still had a small pin I gave him when we last met. It was the most valuable thing I owned. Philip gave Benjamin money and clothes. Then they said goodbye. As Benjamin walked away, he said, "Phil, I am leaving my whole family behind." And it was true. We never heard from him again. When Philip returned home, his first words were, "Mother, Ben is free." I saw him in New York. At first, she did not understand. "Mother, don't you believe me?" he asked. Then she raised her hands and said, "God be praised. Let us thank him." She knelt down and prayed. Then Philip told her everything, except how sick and pale Benjamin had looked. There was no need to make her worry. But my grandmother never stopped trying to free her children. After some time, she saved enough money to buy Philip's freedom. She paid $800 and received the document that made him free. That night, mother and son sat by the fire. They talked about their hard work and their dreams. "We will prove that we can take care of ourselves," they said. Then we all agreed. If someone wants to be a slave, let them. But we will be free.